Ho, 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 everybody. Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Well, pretty much anyway. Christmas is rapidly disappearing that way, and 2021 is rapidly approaching us this way. Anyway, look, I promise this is going to be a short broadcast for the simple reason that I've got my lunch in the oven. So we are going to be very, very brief today after yesterday's hour-and-a-half marathon. So if anybody who hasn't seen one of these shows, essentially, this is just a kind of eavesdrop on my workbench as I noodle away on something. So, if you're tuning in and wanting kind of like really detailed, informative modeling coverage, you're probably going to be disappointed. If you're tuning in to listen to a man in his 50s wittering on and talking about mince pies, then you're in the right place. Anyway, we are building at the moment this particular thing. This is the 1602 kit of the FLAC 5.5 centimeter or FLAC 55 millimeter, take your pick, which was a German project towards the end of the Second World War. Never quite made it into service, but they were built. So this did actually exist. So let's switch over to the workbench camera for a second. And essentially, well, you can see we've had quite a bit of progress here. Not without a few hiccups, it has to be said. If there is an observation about this kit, it's not one I would suggest for somebody with limited experience building models, because there are just little fit things on this kit where you have to kind of just shave a bit off here or just thin something down a bit. I think it's because the tolerances are so fine that it just requires a little bit more care. It's certainly easier to build than, shall we say, some kits like AZ, to name one, or some of these companies that are slightly, non-mainstream. This is pretty much a mainstream kit, but there's just little bits of design and engineering that require a bit more modeler input, shall we say. One of the things that I did, and you may notice here, is these plastic bits here. I ended up breaking them off on pretty much everywhere where I was cleaning them up. So I just took them off completely and replaced them with a bit of plastic rod, which I should have done in the first place. That's obvious. The 18-year-old me would have done that by default. So anyway, another thing that I'm going to have to be mindful of, and I have been looking through the instructions to see if there is something that I need to do. Actually, we're on to this stage in the instructions, by the way. It shows you how far in advance we are now. And that is when it comes to actually fitting the gun onto the base plate, it slots in there fine, absolutely no problem whatsoever. But yeah, as you can see, there's nothing to keep it in place. Now that can be readily fixed. I'm just seeing if I've got some here. Actually, I haven't, but a little bit of blue tack probably wedged in there will do the trick. If not, then what I might do is go and have a look in my drawer I've got over here, which has got bits and pieces of plastic card and tubing and everything. And I might be able to find a piece of contrail tubing that will actually, sorry, there's an annoying bit of flash there. A bit of contrail tubing that might actually do the job. In fact, I'm going to do that right now. Bear with me a second. This is why I have this rather marvelous old tube. This is from art college. This is over 30 years old, this is. And it's got various bits and pieces of tubing in here. And I'm just having a look to see, do I have something that will do the trick? Dum-da-dum-da-dum-da-dum-da-dum. Will that do it? No, it's the same size. If I haven't, as I say, just a piece of blue tack in there will do the trick. I could glue it in place, to be honest with you. Or, actually, has a brainwave live on the internet, would you believe? There is another way around this, and that is to get a pair of pliers. Bear with me a second. There we go. Pair of pliers. This is a simple cheat, and that is to just crimp this a bit, just to flatten the shape out a bit more. And that may... No, it's still doing it. It's probably be easier actually to take this off completely, glue a bit of Albion Alloys tubing in there, then put another bit of tubing in there, and then just do it telescopically. It's a small thing. I'm not going to dwell on it too much, but it is indicative of just little design and engineering decisions on this model that don't quite follow through ultimately. The other thing, which I'm going to have to deal with probably at the very, very last stage of building this, and that is you do need to bend this little brass part here, bend it around an appropriate shape to form the muzzle breech, or the brake. Excuse me, pardon. So what I'm going to have to do there is I'm going to have to anneal that over a flame first, and then trial and error really is just wrap it round a piece of doweling or something, an old paintbrush handle. So we'll figure out a way there. Another thing I have noticed with this is we've got a nice bit of metal tubing here which slots in there, but again it's a bit wibbly wobbly. So that's going to require some very careful alignment. Might even actually use epoxy for that, just to make sure I get the thing properly aligned. Again, I could probably drill that out. I could probably drill that bit out there a bit and then slot it in with a bit of Albion alloy again. But as I say, again, it just gives you an idea that it's not quite as straightforward a kit as you would want it to be. It's little things. It's not, honestly, it's not a deal breaker, but it's just little things like this that you've got to watch out for and kind of plan for and mitigate for. So, but as you can see, it's going to end up being a reasonably sized model. I was hoping to kind of leave it as assemblies, but unfortunately, sub-assemblies rather, but unfortunately, I did need to glue a lot of this together during the construction process. And there is one particular step that absolutely had me scratching my head for a while, and it's this one here, where you've got all these kind of little wispy lines showing you where things go, but it does get a bit confusing. And actually finding out where this part B20 actually sits in here took a real bit of figuring out, because as you can see, it actually sits in there, which would have been clearer had that been made as a separate diagram. But then you've also got to make sure that this pipe, I don't know if you can see that there, but you've got a pipe there, actually marries up to that part there. Again, it's all just a bit kind of vague. And I think with a little bit of extra work on the instructions, it could have been that much clearer. But again, it's a brand new company. I'm going to cut them quite a considerable amount of slack here, because what they've done thus far is actually very impressive. It's just the little details that they're kind of slipping up on. But, you know, like I say, we make allowances for that. Let's just have a quick thing on the comments. Good luck getting that muzzle brake perfectly round. Been there, tried it, failed miserably. Yeah. I will work out a way somehow, Andy. I'm not quite sure how. Thinking on my feet at the moment, which is never the best of things to do. But we will get there. As I say, that will be the last thing I probably do this evening. So essentially, the only stages I've got left to go is to assemble this, all these bits here, and then actually going back to the very start of the model is just these pads for the firing mode. But beyond that, really, we're going to have this construction finished by the end of today. So awesome sauce. So that's pretty much it at the moment. I have to say, I'm actually very impressed with these Tamiya cutters. They're not quite as precise as my Despise, but they are still exceptionally sharp. Really, in fact, so sharp I nearly snipped my finger with them today. but they do leave quite a neat cut. Obviously, they cut by pinching together, then effectively breaking the part, as opposed to the Despise, which give you a nice clean slice. But if you're in the hunt for a pair of nippers, as they call them, and you don't want to stretch to the price of the Despise, these are good. These are very, very good. Personally, I would still go for the Despise ones, but your workbench, your rules. Anything else to talk about in the meantime before I go off and sort my lunch out? I had very, very grateful to Mr. Andrew Farmer for some lovely Christmas presents, including some very nice books. Thank you, Mr. Farmer. Also, a pair of Bren gun carriers, 2 issues of the Smere Bren gun carrier, which is absolutely splendid because that's a kit I've wanted to build for years. So we'll add that to the list of things to do for 2021. Anyway, that really is going to be it for now. So I'm hungry and I need some lunch, and it's cold outside, and etc. etc. So as I say, we're going to keep this one very, very brief this afternoon. So I'll have a bit of lunch, then come back in here. Probably listen to Radio 3 because I'm dead cultured like, and get this on its way. Take some photographs, and with a bit of luck, by early this evening, we will have a structurally completed model, which means we can let it settle overnight and then put some primer on it tomorrow and actually get on with some painting. So on that note, stay safe, stay out of trouble, and tea cozy. Very funny, Dave. So right, Dave is nice tea cozy. Actually, if you see that I've got some very nice knitted tea cozies, this is not a tea cozy. Let's just make that clear. I do not wear a tea cozy on my head most times. On that note, just remains for me to say, stay safe, stay out of trouble, and we'll give you an update a bit later in the day. So from me, for the moment, bye for now.